another episode of the Unbuttoned podcast with your host, Yuva. What's up? Today I'm talking to my friend, Anish. Hey, Anish, thank you so much for being on the Unbuttoned podcast. How does it feel?
I'm so excited to be part of this podcast. I've watched some of the other episodes and I'm very excited to be part of it.
It's awesome. Yeah, you should be excited. It's a privilege to be on here. Word on the street is that you're one of the most interesting people in the University of Pennsylvania. What do you have to say about that?
I mean, I appreciate it. I feel like ever since I came into university, I've been trying to do a lot of things that put me out of my comfort zone, things I've never tried before, and just like spread myself wide and try a lot of new things. And that's given me some fame, some notoriety, but I really enjoyed putting myself out there. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, just in these like short, what are you, a junior now?
I am a junior,
These
yes.
short 3 years, you've just blown up. Everyone on campus knows your name.
I appreciate that, Yuva.
So, who is Anish Ganesh? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what your major is, and what your interests are?
Of course. I'm currently a 21-year-old CS major. Um, classic brown boy major. I'm doing the bachelor's and I'm also doing a master's concurrently, and a bunch of sweet little minors I got to get along with it too in stat, math, and data science. A little bit about the professional side. I am going to be interning at Cisco this summer, so that's going to be an exciting, fun time in San Francisco. No pun intended. And that's me. That's me wrapped. Yeah.
Nice, nice. So, before we get into some of the more serious questions and unpack who Anish Ganesh is, let's learn a little bit about your life at Penn. What's the wildest thing you've done these past 3 years on
Wow.
campus or related to Penn in some way?
That's a good question. Um, I'd say the wildest thing I've done is pick up dance. Like ever since I was, a mere 5 years young, like I watch all these dancers and thought they were the coolest people on the planet. I don't think I ever had like the audacity or the confidence to be able to pick that up. But literally just coming here and thinking and watching these other people like be so good at their craft. Pendamaka, the dance team that I'm part of, is the third best team nationwide for Bhangra and like fusion type dance.
Oh,
And
wow.
to be able to start not knowing anything to now, calling myself a half decent dancer on it is probably like my wildest like turnaround slash experience. I think you were expecting more like solo experience, but I'm sure we can we can get into that too. But
Yeah, no, we'll get into it all. But yeah, so let's since we've had a natural segue there, let's talk about like your time at Penn Dhamaka, and then I know you've had some other extracurriculars you've done at Penn, but yeah, let's go into Penn Dhamaka. So for people who might not be familiar, can you tell us about Penn Dhamaka, like what kind of club it is, and then can you tell us about your role in it and what it's been like, your recent performances?
of course, Pentamaka is this like fusion dance team. When I talk fusion, I say anywhere from like Bhangra, hip hop, filmy style of dance to even like slow, contemporary, and like South type of dance. Basically, you learn everything, like all the different moves to be able to dance to any type of song. And what started out as like a workshop initially, then transitioned into like a tryout. Did half decent in the tryouts. Became a part of a team which is around 30 members, and so every spring they do competitions where all the universities compete, or like all the big name universities, and the Maka does really well at them. They consistently place like first place, and they go to this like grand comp called Legends, which is the culmination of all these other comps, and the 8 to 10 best teams compete there. And truly, it's been like a surreal experience. I haven't been through a comp season personally yet, so next year is going to be my big comp season. But I'm excited. I'm excited for that.
So when you got into tryouts and applied to be a part of Pendamaka, did you have a lot of like prior dance experience, or is it something you just kind of picked up very recently?
Yeah, I'd say I didn't have any dance experience before I got in. Obviously, I've seen like my roommate, for instance, dance, and like I've had people in the vicinity dancing around me, but then me personally, I did not have any experience going into it. So it was
Oh,
more.
so how did you do that then? Like, did you practice before tryouts? You just like studied the moves and practiced them on your own, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like with anything, it's a lot of like feel-based learning. Like, I watched a lot of like these competitions on YouTube, and even if I didn't actually know how to replicate the move, I feel like watching it enough times gives you an idea of like their expressions or, a feel for the bounce of dance that people who strictly learn the moves don't get. So I feel like just watching a lot of content kind of put me in the right headspace to.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool because nowadays with like Reels and TikTok, you see all kinds of like different hip hop dancing and other types of fusion dancing, and like so many people are just like picking it up on their own and posting videos. Do you ever do any of that, like post Reels or TikToks of your
Post
moves?
videos. So
Yeah,
far, it's just been practice videos, but I see a world down the line when I'm out of the Maka or like, and I want to pursue dance or like just continue it as a side hobby. I'm sure I'd get to do some TikToks, then grow my brand then,
yeah, definitely.
my way up.
So so yeah, so you have the Maka, and then you're also a pretty significant part of another group at Penn. Do you want to tell people about that, and we'll get into that a little?
Yeah, so Penn Sargam was the other one. Yes, I am part of a lot of Desi clubs. But it's a fusion like music group like mashups, and we have like a band setting where all of us play on like 2 to 3 songs a semester. We have a set list of 12 songs, and the whole idea is that we're putting together 2 songs in a completely new setting that's never been seen before and doing a performance of that. So they aren't classic covers, instead they are our own arrangements of these songs together. So it's a lot of fun brainstorming with other people what songs might go together, and also how we're gonna like fuse them, and how I have to learn I'm the guitarist for Sorghum, the electric guitarist. So how we learn like the different parts for that. It's a very exciting and collaborative process. And Sorghum's not just a music team, we're also like a family. So outside the context of just, music, we're also doing all these other hosting events and performing at other gigs, performing at bars. So it's a very fun experience overall.
Yeah, no, I got the Instagram page up here. So do you guys have any other upcoming events this semester, or you've already done your main show?
Yeah, no, Sargum will be having a show. I think maybe they haven't posted on it yet, but it will be in April mid. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, it's going to be an exciting time. A lot of new people we picked up, so it's gonna be a very exciting show.
And I see, so you have all these crossovers here. Like, so how does that work? How do you guys come up with these fusion versions of the song? Do you have separate writers who do that, and then you guys just play the instruments, or is it kind of a collective, like you guys all work together, or are these like pretty popular mashups that have been done before?
Right. Yeah, I'd say the mashups are more niche than anything. Like, it's not the first mashup that would come to mind. I'd say we all have enough musical talent to where the way our brainstorming process works is we all dump a lot of different ideas into this one document or like in a form, and then we walk through every single idea. Like, we don't leave out any of the ideas. And we end up on a vote base deciding on which like 12 or 13 songs to perform for a set list. And it might not have necessarily even started out as the original mashup, but we like plug and play until there are songs that sound really good together. So
Yeah. No,
great.
I'm gonna insert probably right after this some clips post production about some of the things I've seen at Sargam. I've been to one of your shows. It's really awesome stuff. So, what instruments do you play?
Yeah, so I started out playing the classical guitar. Classical guitar is nylon strings. If you've seen like flamenco guitarists play or like Spanish guitar, it's basically what it is. So it's a very different style to what people normally start with, which is the acoustic. They play a lot of like chord-based songs. I started with a lot of fingerstyle-based songs. Basically, I don't use a pick. I don't use a guitar pick. I just use my hands, and which allowed me to play like a very like niche subset of songs, a lot of fingerstyle, a lot of melody-based music. And so then coming into Sargum, I finally got the opportunity to play like solos and like electric guitar songs. And so to this day, I still don't use a guitar pick, which is some people like have some hot takes about that, but I'm more comfortable with just using my hand.
So, what you said, you mentioned, so you started off on this. Is this the right kind of guitar? Maybe just
Yeah, this is the Spanish or the classical. Yeah.
so like, is this like when you think of a guitar, like, so I don't know, some in layman speak, someone who doesn't know a lot about this, is this like the main type of guitar like people will learn on, or is there something different about this?
Yeah, it's just the fact that the bottom three strings, instead of being metal strings, are nylon strings. So what
Okay.
that allows you to do is like play a lot of finger picking and uh, a lot of like fast notes, right? You can play a lot because you're plucking with multiple fingers instead of just one guitar pick. And so it's I'd say it's different. It's not the most popular. Acoustic guitar would be the most popular, but it's definitely up there.
Oh, dope, dope. So without playing with like a guitar pick, is it do you not need it because of the nylon, or do your hands still like sting from like just and is that the main use of a guitar pick? Like to make your fingers not like get hurt from playing the guitar, or does it actually change the sound?
Yeah, the guitar pick makes it definitely accents the note a little bit, but it limits you to only being able to play one, max two notes at a time. And if you want to play a greater melody, it has to only be chord based, so you could like strum the guitar, but you can never like pluck like three or four strings to create like arpeggiating melodies or like there's a lot more beautiful nuance you can do when you have all your fingers available to play the song, you know? So
Yeah. No,
it's
okay. I didn't even think about that like distinction with guitars. So when did you pick that up? Like how is this again something you just trained for before tryouts, or have this been something you've played for a while?
Yeah, the guitar is something I picked up from back in like sixth or seventh grade. I always wanted to learn an instrument, and I feel like it was around the time when my parents were like, "Do you want to learn the piano or the guitar?" I was always like stuck, like I wanted to play the guitar from the start, and it was a beautiful crossover. Like I mentioned, I started with the classical, took a break throughout high school, maybe for like a year or two. I did these graded exams called ABRSM exams, which is a very popular one in the UK. And I got up to like grade five out of grade eight. So we're not there yet, but we're going to make it there. We're going to make it there at some point, I'm sure. And after the break, I came here, auditioned for Sargum, was thankful enough to get in. And now we're playing the guitar for them. Yeah.
Yeah, so do you play other instruments as well, or the guitar is your main one?
Me personally, I've tried out with the drums a little bit. Guitar adjacent is the bass guitar. It's four strings, but it's all for like the bass and the backing of the song itself. I play that. But certain people are very creative, man. I could tell you, they try a lot of new things. So people who came in for one instrument are doing completely different instruments now. Some people even transition from instruments to vocals. So there's a lot to be done there. Yeah.
Sick, sick. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Any other like extracurriculars you're part of at Penn, or should we move on to some other things?
Yeah, I can quickly bring up a few if we want to delve into that, or we can also move into other things. Debate is something I used to do back in high school. Similarly, it's been a lot of like taking breaks and coming back to hobbies that once interested me. Last semester, I had the opportunity to go to Yale to do a debate comp, a British parliamentary style debate comp, which is 15 minutes of prep time, no internet, and you have to talk for 7 to 8 minutes, right? And so I go to this competition. I'm paired up with someone from Penn. His name is Gobanu. And I'm like, hey man, like it's been a while since I debated. I'm just here to have fun. And he goes, yeah, I'm the best debater in the country of Oman. And I'm like, wow, that's insane. That's insane that this pairing has happened right now. But I definitely learned a lot from that. Debating is, I feel like such a useful life skill for me. So putting me on the spot and having me talk for that long is, for anyone is a great soft skill to have.
So you said you're like put in a room with like you can't look up anything. It's just everything has to be based on pre-existing knowledge. Or did I misinterpret? Or are you allowed to
Yeah,
like look up info beforehand when you're prepping?
pretty much. For example, one of the prompts we got was something like, oh, neobanks, which is a new form of banking versus classical banking, and like, what would you pick? I mean, obviously, there's a side government, a side opposition, so they give you the side that you have to debate for. But the idea is you don't have information to go off of, and everything has to purely be logicked from your prior knowledge. So it involves you having to do a lot of reading, a lot of staying up to date with current events and news.
Yeah,
And yeah, it was a great opportunity.
that seems awesome. Yeah, no, and it's just I guess it's just a kind of a way to stay focused on everything going on in the world and like have a reason to stay up to date. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's definitely dope.
So easy as like a CS major to get tunnel visioned into code,
Yeah.
code, and code and not have to worry about anything else. But I think it's important for anyone of any major, for that matter, to stay up to date with like current news events and
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, let's get into more about being a CS major at Penn. So how do you feel like I guess one interesting thing that like probably our generation is gonna be like the first generation to experience is that we started computer science before we had access to these tools like Claude Sonnet or like even ChatGPT and all these Gen AI coding tools. So we started Penn without that, and then in the last few years it came like while we were still pursuing an education, software engineering. So what do you think about that? Like how has it changed your assignments? Like do you just feel like I know for me, I just like feel a lot more confident on being able to like take on any like task because I'm like, all right, I can learn this stuff really fast and like
Right.
figure things out. But like, yeah, as a CS major, how does it help? Like, does it, and again, like it also, if you're trying to learn this stuff, if you get it to like help you write code, do you feel like you're learning or does it kind of feel like that's not a good idea because then you're too reliant on it?
Yeah. No, these are some great questions. I think the year I joined was kind of the year it was taking off. So initially, even like chatting something as simple as like explain this concept felt like kind of wrong. Like, oh, what is this, right? I guess we've kind of gotten used to having it be an integral part of our lives, like a PA almost, like take care of like the additional side tasks for you. Sometimes even to the extent of writing emails and whatnot. It's very easy for it to give you imposter syndrome to a certain degree when you call yourself a CS major, but you're also having to have this explain logic to you or like you know it's you want to be an authentic CS major and like do everything from scratch and write code from scratch and make those syntax errors and learn from them. But at the same time, like all I'd say is it's a very fast moving world, and there's a lot of advantage to take using these smart software to create and build software that are layers of abstraction above this, right? Instead of working against AI and saying, oh, AI is bad, how about you use it to then propel whatever idea you have and build that and put that out in the market faster, right? So
Yeah.
I'd say in that context, leveraging AI skills are definitely beneficial. Um, it's important along the way to also understand what you're doing because there can definitely come a time where maybe AI isn't as experienced. We could see it. They hallucinate, they're not perfect, where you have to be able to step in. The key idea of a CS major or any major for that matter is being a problem solver. You have to be a good problem solver to be able to navigate these tough situations. So as long as you could pivot at the right time and when you don't have access to AI, be able to solve these problems, I'd say you're in good shape to like leverage it as to the best of your ability.
Yeah, no, definitely. And if you think about, I don't know, like even back in like earlier on in the realm of computer science, when people were dealing with like machine code or assembly, like even nowadays, it's important for us to like learn like what's going on under the hood and like learn about that when we're
Yeah.
trying to implement systems and things. But like nowadays, like even yeah, if you just think of like a more modern programming language, like I mean, even still bare bones, like if you move to like C or something like that, like
Yeah.
we then there's all these levels of abstraction that we just kind of push away, but then you can focus on building more interesting things. And yeah, I was talking to another friend at Penn, and he just basically built like a entire like Duolingo-esque app in like a day using like cursor and like
Right.
O1 model and other things to like help
Right.
plan it. And so in that sense though, like it's awesome and like that's kind of like where things have moved to. So you gotta like keep up if you don't want to
There's
be
this
left behind.
whole new topic or like style of coding called vibe coding,
Called
which is
what
getting
coding?
vibe coding.
Okay,
It's
tell me
pretty
about that.
popular right now where you use like apps like Cursor AI or software to basically do the iterative coding for you. And you kind of sit back and see what the vibe of it building the app is. And you only come in when needed. It's like a self-driving car, but it's for building apps, right? So you can interject when you want to. And it's really interesting. I see it. Like you mentioned, with these as you get more low level, you have more opportunity to fine tune the nuances or like the very specific like gears that you want to fix. But I'd say from a high level, there's still a lot you can do. There's right, yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, okay. This just puts a name to something I guess I've been familiar with, but yeah. What so do you use Cursor? I was sort of Windsurf. Do you have like a preferred IDE that coding IDE that you use that integrates Gen AI?
That's a good point. I actually not as up to date as you think I might be. I rely on like GPT a little bit here and there, maybe Claude to a certain degree, and Perplexity is this new one which just kind of integrates like everything together, and
Yeah.
has had a lot of talk about it. But besides that, I haven't used a specific software or app that has it integrated, like the Cursor or like the GitHub Copilot, which is integrated with VS Code, I believe. But they're all really good, man. They
Yeah.
all do their own thing.
So just talking like a little bit just about AI in general, and we can also like stray to other like other areas in the subject that you feel more like interested in or like more knowledgeable about. But like there's this big like just talk in general now. Like we're almost like maybe like in the next like I don't know, the next few years, obviously everyone's talking about like can we have like a full AGI, artificial general intelligence, and like how smart are these agents going to get where they can do things for us? And then that all kind of culminates into what people I just heard this term recently actually called a FOOM, FOOM. Have you heard of that?
Not
I'll pull it
familiar.
up actually because I just heard about this recently, and I feel like it's probably interesting term. Here, I'm just gonna pull up. Yeah, here, pull up another Reddit post. Um, let's see. Okay, so it looks like it came from like a science fiction writer, but it's this like idea where like okay, AI is just gonna like get to this point where okay, we'll have like maybe one AI that's as smart as like 100x of like the smartest engineer and scientist now. So if one
Right.
I can do that, and we have all of these agents running around that are each one is like 100x more powerful than the current scientists now, and there's like there's millions of them. We'll get to this point where like it just cuts even humans out of the picture. We'll just sit like
Right.
twiddling our thumbs, be on like universal basic income, where like AI is taking over, and it's like right now we're seeing these like exponential advancements that Gen AI specifically, and just general and like reasoning models. So, and a lot of people think like we're gonna keep seeing this advancement, then kind of hit like a roadblock before we can have this explosion or foom or whatever. And there's gonna be
Right.
different issues that come when it comes to like actually scaling AI. One of the arguments I was listening to a talk by a guy at OpenAI recently. He actually came to Penn. I told you about this dude. You probably should have. I don't know if I saw you there, but it was
Mm,
a talk given by an OpenAI AI dude at Penn just recently. He said like even now like when we have all these employees and access to all this info like big companies Microsoft like um Alphabet and like all these companies that have all, basically unlimited resources, they're not scaling like as much as they used to. Like there's all these different reasons why. So even
yeah.
if all of a sudden we could introduce all this new AI talent, would that really lead to scalability? So I just wanted to like get your thought. I know everyone there's no way to predict for sure, but what's your vibe on this? Like, do you think we're gonna like foom pretty soon, or do you think that there's still a decent amount of time where um there'll kind of be this gap where like yeah like AI is cool, but like at the end of the day like LLMs are still pretty dumb with a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the most notable like curve they kind of point to when it comes to like these kind of technological advancements is like the S curve. So there's like a period of a lot of technological advancements before you hit a plateau, and that cycle keeps repeating. And so I'd say initially like the introduction of like OpenAI software like GPT was one of those likes of like the S curve steeping. Um, as for if we're ever gonna see the world like boom, frankly, um, if from a purely logical standpoint, if we now currently have uh, bots that can code and refine their own code, then I see a vision where these bots can build more bots, which, as sci-fi sounds like crazy out of the movie as it sounds, is frankly feasible. Like in the realm of feasible, if you prompt it well enough, I'm sure you can have an AI build another AI chatbot, right? Now, if you give it the compute power that like Nvidia has, before you know it, Nvidia now apparently is not fired, but 30% of their jobs are now being replaced by AI, which is a very, very high number. And you know, they're doing it and they're making it work. They're putting like new robots out I don't know if you saw 2 days ago,
Oh
they
yeah, the conference, right? Their 2025 conference.
yeah,
So
they
much cool stuff. We'll talk
Jensen
about that. Yeah.
demoed his first like real life like humanoid type robot, which was very human. It was reacting in very human ways, and there's a lot of like scary but exciting potential. Are we gonna film anytime soon? Maybe like in 10 years time, because like everyone's on it. Everyone, if you don't have AI on your resume, if it's not a concentration, if it's not a major, like you're doing something wrong, you know.
Yeah.
So everyone's gonna be on it, so maybe real soon we see
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, and when you kind of think about that concept of AI building AIs, um, another little fact I'm pulling from that recent talk is 40, like I think it's like 42% of pull requests at OpenAI are fulfilled by like AI, by their own engine. Like so
Hmm.
that's kind of crazy. Like almost like this big, that like one of the leaders in AI right now, like almost like half of like every like of their like they're continuing to scale and building and getting bigger is like being fulfilled by the AI that they created. So it's like this self-fulfilling prophecy. And yeah, I definitely see like how quickly things can change. Um, but yeah, no, that NVIDIA conference was pretty cool. And yeah, I don't know, do you have any interest in more in like the hardware side of things, like these chips? That's something I'm trying to like learn more about because for me it's always been more like software side of things. And like now I
Yeah.
feel like hardware is becoming so relevant in the whole AI thing, and it's something like you got to learn about. Do you have any like thoughts about that?
Yeah. These like powerhouses, like using Colab now is kind of becoming a dependency to do any like machine learning project because of the GPU and the compute they have available. And frankly, these GPUs are expensive too, making like these big name companies have a big competitive advantage, right? Nvidia, I think, released their new like 50 series GPU, and the whole premise was last year they had the 4090, which was the most powerful GPU at the time. They released the 5070, which is a third of the price, but just as good this year. So frankly, the rate at which hardware is becoming better is not stopping anytime soon. And the more powerful hardware we have access to, like the bigger models we can train, right? The biggest model I've seen trained like so far or in the realm of being trained is like around 70 billion parameter models. Basically, we're fine-tuning 70 billion parameters for these chatbots. And I see it only scaling from there to go even higher. So it's exciting stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll get your thoughts on this as a fellow Desi, but so right now, like the big idea is like who's gonna dominate in this AI race? We right now the main people in the spotlight, we got the U.S., we have China, everybody's going on. China's had this advancement than the U.S. Well, what do you think? Like, do you think India is gonna have a role in this, or do you think that um, right now it's they're like China and the US are so far, and maybe not just India, but like the other big players. Like, do you think China and the US are so far like in the lead that it'll be hard for anyone else to catch up, or do you think we'll have like a kind of like a deep seek moment come out of India? Is the first question I'll ask, but then other countries in general,
Right.
just to
Right.
get like kind of your geo like political debate mind on this.
You know, as much as India may not be at the top of the AI leaderboard right now, there's a lot of Indian developers who are, subsequently like being part of these big developments, you know. So India definitely has the brains to get involved in that. And, the likes of IIT and their slim to none 2% acceptance rate in a university, like they have some really, really smart guys back there. And so I have no doubt that a bunch of other like competitors like the likes of India will definitely get involved. Will definitely get involved. I just say U.S. naturally has the time advantage, competitive advantage, being the first ones into the market. Right, it's gonna be tough to beat, but DeepSeek came in and did it, so I have no doubt that India
Yeah.
has potential.
Yeah, and if you're thinking about it that way, like you could even, I mean, it's still highly controversial, no one knows, but I mean, first, the US has their advantage because we've kind of um, keeping our hold on these NVIDIA chips. But then, like maybe DeepSeek, it seems like they were maybe able to get access to some of these chips, and then like other countries are like either like playing by the rules, and then also just don't really have access to these chips. Like, can you really like blame the country, or like maybe it's just a matter of time if you give them the compute as well, they have just as intelligent engineers and could build something just as cool. So like, and also like with China, they kind of have this kind of hold stronghold over everyone because of like what's going on, their pressure they're
Right.
putting on Taiwan. So like I feel like some of those reasons are what like rather than like all the intelligence being in China and India, sorry, China and the US, I feel like we just happen to have like access to like these chips and compute rather than like actually having the like human intelligence to like build next level stuff. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Agreed. Agreed for
Cool,
sure.
cool. All right, so we got like into the depths of it. We talked about CS, we talked about AI. Let's take a little more of a break for the viewers and talk about something a little more chill and then I wouldn't say more interesting, but something in a little bit of a different direction. So I was digging through, I was researching you, I was digging through and stalking you like heavily on I had like three monitors open, like looking through everything and um, I found that back in the day, you used to be a speed cuber, solve a Rubik's cube pretty damn fast. Do you happen
Yeah.
to have a cube with you? Could we get a demonstration, or am
Let
I
me
putting too much on the spot?
let me see if I have one, but yeah, I
All right, and
do have a cube on me.
just so we don't get any like haters saying like it was pre-organized or whatever,
Right.
can you close your eyes, dude, and hold the cube up and just like completely
Mix
random
it up.
mix it up with your eye. We gotta see your eyes closed, bro.
All right, for sure. Eyes
Yeah,
closed.
hold up the
Right.
cube. Yep. All right. All right.
Cube.
Yep, I can guarantee you're not looking at it.
I need you to tell me to stop whenever you want. It's
Yeah,
completely.
no, I'm gonna let this keep going for a minute. To the
Oh.
point where like you can't be memorizing these hand gestures either.
Not memorizing. Look, random directions.
All right, I would say it's pretty randomized now.
Yeah.
Actually, let's go a little more. I
Let's
see.
go a little more. All right.
All right, all right. Let's go. Let's just go with that. Yep. I would say that's pretty random. Now we
All
want
right.
to we'll hold it up and let's see you solve that.
All right.
Can you go one-handed or two or two-handed?
You want me to do one-handed?
Nah, no, I'll be nice to you. I put you on the spot. Like, let's do. You can do whatever.
All right. I'll do two-handed. My one-handed times are a little higher, but I can bring that in the mix too. Don't worry. All right. Are we ready?
Yeah, yeah, yep. I'm gonna put a timer on this that post production, but
Okay.
let's go.
3, 2, 1, go.
You hold it up a little higher for us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sorry if that took up some of your time. There we go, solved. Beast. What's the whole like speed cubing world like? Like I remember like when I was in middle school, we had like I had people like they were so into it they'd be like I don't know, like they'd worry about like which specific like cube they had and they'd like grease it to like make it spin faster. Like how did you have to get down to like that level of business when you were like competing or how does it work? And then once you know how to solve the cube, like you kind of understand the algorithm, what then gets you to be faster and faster? Is that just literally like hand exercises at that point?
Yeah. So the way cubing started for me was I was like 6 or 7 years old. My grandpa um, really loved like, the puzzle aspect of it. And so he got me a Rubik's Cube. My parents looked at it and went, he's like 6. He's not going to be able to solve this. But my grandpa had faith in me. So the very first video I watched, I think it was this guy named Dan Brown. The video is probably 20 years old now, but it went ahead and showed how to solve it layer by layer. The very first method I learned. And my very first solve was probably around 7 to 8 minutes after I understood, the steps. It basically goes you solve the cross in the bottom, and then you solve this very first layer at the bottom. Then you go ahead and solve the second layer, and then finally you solve the layer up top, right? And so when I did that, I got my timings down to maybe like a minute and 30 seconds, and I was very proud of that. I was like, wow, I can solve a cube in a minute. That's really cool. And I kind of plateaued off, right? And then I come across this thing called CFOP. CFOP is this new cool algorithm on the block where you no longer are doing layer by layer, but instead you're solving 2 layers at the same time. And I'm like, what? How is that possible? How do you solve all that together? Like, give it like 150 different algorithms and maybe you got it, right? So there were a lot of different algorithms you had to crack, case-wise, case-dependent, to be able to solve these very specific types of subsets of problems within the Rubik's Cube. But I was initially slower. I was initially averaging around, a minute and 30, 2 minutes. But then once the drop happened, came down to maybe roughly around like 30 seconds and then 20 seconds. And then when I was peak competition form, I was averaging maybe around 12, 13 seconds on the cube, which,
Damn. Nice.
I enjoyed cubing a lot. I still do to this day. I carry it around my bag always. It's a fun little party trick to bring out. But yeah, if you ever want to get into cubing, learn the CFOP method. It's a really good method to learn.
All right. Well, yeah, you heard it from the master, C5. All
Yeah.
right. Before we wrap things up, I got to show people this new start. Is it how new is this? Tell us a little bit about this startup and what's going on here. First,
Yeah,
start with the name. What does that represent? And then, I mean, we can kind of get an idea, but then take it from there.
of course. So I named it Ensign. Ensign was a term for instruction that I saw in one of my sys classes that I thought, wow, this is a pretty like cool, it'd be a cool like product name, right? This is basically an interactive neural search network is what it stands for now. And it's an entire graph of all the research in the world. Currently it's just tech papers, but to down the line be extended to all the research in the world. And it has this language model where you can now directly interact with all these papers, right? And that allows you to be able to like track what the most recent reads have been and recommend authors based off of it. And I feel like most people have been using Google Scholar so far, but I wanted a smarter way of doing research that delivered papers to the researchers faster. And personally, this was a product I thought I would use if I were to build it. So I went ahead and built it with a team of people, and it worked out. It just so worked out that we got the product live and submitted to YC.
Awesome. So I'm gonna be like just a little annoying here to ask you about this, but so like why would I use this when like you could just go on ChatGPT and like it now most of the models too are like connect, they have their own crawlers. I presume it's their own, but they're then able to go through the internet and find research and other articles for you. It's like what would be kind of different about this if someone were to use it?
Right. With ChatGPT and a lot of these models, they're generation based models, right? They're prone to hallucinations.
Yeah.
At the bottom of ChatGPT, they
Definitely.
literally have a one line that says, "Oh, this algorithm, this
Yeah.
AI is prone to hallucinations." With this AI, we basically eliminate the concept of hallucinations because we have all of this research embedded locally in the backend. And the benefit that gives our app over any other app is that every time our model makes or our chat makes a response, it's going to cite the research, the most accurate form of research it can get. And it's also never going to generate new text, right? It's never going to like logic its way through a response. It's only ever going to cite things and pull up the right information that the user needs. So we're effectively
I see.
guaranteeing
Yeah.
100% accuracy in any of the chat's responses.
Yeah, which you would need for if you're trying to do research.
Right? The
Yeah,
last thing
yeah.
you'd want is to either not have the appropriate source pulled up or you don't have the most accurate response for you to be able to cite in your
Yep.
paper. We're kind of eliminating those problems with what we do.
So after like a new work gets published, how long before you can like put that into your like database and like then um basically condition in a way where you're able to pull info and give it quickly to the user?
Yeah, right now we're doing day-based scraping. So every day you get updated with the newest papers. And based off the authors you're following and kind of the papers that you have saved, it recommends any relevant papers to your realm of research that you can explore. I feel like Google Scholar or any other research platform for that matter, the most it offers is keyword-based search. And so this effectively allows you to do more than just keyword-based search, which is good.
Cool, cool. So yeah, so for people who are a little like on this podcast who are listening who are a little more familiar with like the lower level like implementation, we're more interested in the lower level implementation of this. Talk me through like what's going on. So I see you have you're scraping once a day, you're finding the articles, you put that into your database. Then what's going on from there? So you have this like massive corpus. How have you optimized it so like when I put in a request, I get my answer quickly and accurate?
Yeah, yeah. So we've Implemented this thing called an embedding database. A lot of people are using it now for these RAG-based models, right? Retrieval augmented generation models, which is a new form of AI where you're no longer having you're basically giving it a lot of context, giving it all the information it needs to be able to do a response. And all the information we have is in this embedded database. So uh, in the graph that is INSIN, the way things are plotted in terms of how close two nodes on the graph that represent research are to each other is basically how it looks in the back end too. Like that's how the database would look like. And so this effectively allows us to, you know, query based off either abstract based similarity, citation based similarity, or even keyword similarity. So it gives a lot more options than what like a common platform would use.
No, that's sick, bro. Yeah, I gotta try this. Is it free to use right now, or do I have to like pay for a subscription?
It is completely free to use. Yeah, you just might have to log in through your Gmail, but yeah, man.
So you submitted this to a did you pitch this to a VC, you said, or you submitted in a competition?
It's been a lot of doing both. We submitted to the Y Combinator competition.
Oh, nice.
Basically have a 2% acceptance rate, but we might have solid odds of making the interview. So it's very exciting times for that. But I've learned a lot this semester about the entrepreneurship space and what started out as just like ideas and personal projects now being extended to, you know, actual funding and, you know, building off of that. So I'm very excited to see where this idea goes. For sure.
Nice, dude. That's awesome. And then yeah, like I guess I know I said last question like a while ago. There's so many interesting things coming up. This will be the last question. Tell us about you're working. You're going to be working at Cisco. Tell us about that, because yeah, we're talking about like your career endeavors right now. You got the startup, and then you also got this position coming up. So, like, how did you land that position for people who might be interested in getting an internship in the same place? And B, like, what will you be doing?
Of course.
Or maybe reverse the order. What will you be doing, and then give the advice.
Got it. Yeah, for the summer, I'm going to be interning at Cisco as a generative AI intern. So sounds very fancy on paper. Basically, like a lot of these big name companies now want their own like hub-esque software, their own like co-pilot software that they could call their own, right? Basically, any internal team or any external team can use the software to navigate or, you know, a very fast like query-based system. And so they wanted to build that out. And I fortunately have relevant experience in one of my past internships with Juniper Networks. I've done something pretty similar. And so that's basically what I'm going to be building out over summer. Sorry, your second question was, how I landed Cisco. Dude, it was my first year of actual recruitment. I'd say freshman and sophomore year, I didn't take things as seriously. So between like the lead code grind and, you know, everything that comes with like being a full-fledged SWE intern, I'd say my fall semester was a lot. I was in for a whole ride. Like to this day, I kid you not, like being a cis major is, you gotta be ready to see rejections and just like move past it, right? Like I fully signed this offer, and I'm still to this day, I could wake up on any given morning and see like, oh, sorry, but we've decided to pass up on your offer this time. And I'm like,
yeah, you've been replaced by an AI.
I've been replaced by an AI, exactly. It's such an ongoing, such a strenuous process, but I'd say it's all rewarding at the end. And, you know, it's good for a SWE major because you have a lot of opportunity. Like there's a lot. If you start early, if you start around July, then you have maybe a 6 month to 7 month cycle where you could apply to upwards of like 1,000 jobs if you really wanted to. The upper bound is like up to you to decide, right? It takes a lot of strenuous leak coding, but I'd say like past like 100 to 150 problems that are like non-trivial, if they're all unique problems, I'd say you'd be in good shape to attend these interviews, right? It's a lot about thinking on the spot and just talking inherently. You want to be able to talk through your thought process when you're coding. You want to be able to talk through any behavioral questions. You want to show that you're excited about this company and you're excited to contribute to the cause and be a part of them and grow with them. So it's pointers that everyone gives, but if you consistently do it, like you will land the job of your dreams. 100%.
Awesome. All right, my dude. Yeah, thank you so much for being on Unbuttoned. How did it feel to be on the podcast?
Dude, that was very exciting, and I didn't even realize the time passed. I didn't know the podcast came to an end.
Yeah,
I was
no,
like
I
ready
was.
to keep talking for like hours, dude. Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, no, this was dope. It was fun hanging out with you, dude. Thanks for coming on. All right, peace.